Many times taxpayers fall into trouble with the IRS due to no fault of their own. They experience financial hardship. Did you know it's possible to put IRS collectors on hold if you're experiencing financial hardship? Here's how. Recently, I helped a taxpayer we'll call Steve. He works in the logging and lumber industry down in Georgia. He owed the IRS $24,506. Now, this was a balance that really carried from many years of returns, from 2014 all the way up to 2019. Well, he was injured. He had a back injury, and his back injury made it such that he had several years actually of recuperation. And when it was time to come back on the job, he was a great worker, but his employer could not put him in the same position. So he had to take a job for less than what he had been previously making. We were able to get the IRS to put Steve in what's called non-collectible status. We actually established that he was experiencing financial hardship. What this means now for Steve is he's making zero payments to the IRS, and the IRS has agreed no levies, no wage garnishments, no collection actions or hate mail until they have a chance to reevaluate the situation after he gets back on his feet financially. Why would the IRS agree to this? Well, actually, the IRS is bound by federal regulations. There's laws that protect taxpayers against the IRS if the IRS were to take actions that would put the family in a position where their well-being was in jeopardy. So you can't take actions if you're an IRS collector to impair family well-being. The basic issue really comes down to money. It's a math issue. What is your monthly income into your household? And then what are your basic living expenses? After those two are matched up, is there any money left over to actually make tax payments? In Steve's case, there wasn't. Now, how do you document that you can't afford to make tax payments? Well, you have to submit an IRS Form 433. And in addition, you can supply your pay stubs, back tax returns, maybe 3 months of bank statements. You're establishing basically what your monthly living costs are. You might have expense receipts for your food, your housing, utilities, clothing, healthcare, and so forth. In Steve's case, he was falling short $304 every month. His living costs were well within the limits that the IRS has set, what are called IRS financial collection standards. It's common sense. Someone living in Paducah, Kentucky is not going to have the same living expenses as someone who's living in New York City. Well, the financial standards account for all those differences. But once we took into account where Steve lived in Georgia, what the living costs were there, it was determined, and we documented to the IRS, his living costs were reasonable and legitimate, and there was no way he could make payments at this time. What's next for Steve? Well, he needs to continue to file his tax returns and pay his taxes due, have enough withheld from the income he is making to pay the taxes. He'll pay interest on the balance that is still owed. But the reality is, if you remember, some of this debt goes back to 2014. There's an IRS statute of limitations. They cannot collect beyond 10 years after a return has been filed. Some of these returns will actually fall out of the statute of limitations period within the next 3 years or so. A lot of times with these cases, taxpayers are never able to reestablish themselves financially before the statute of limitations actually runs out. So in effect, it's a great solution for Steve, and it really means he'll pay nothing more on his balance due if things, work out in his favor. The question is, how do you qualify? Are you in financial hardship? Of course, the IRS has a concept of financial hardship that may be a little different than many taxpayers. But how do you qualify? How do you document that you're in hardship? If you have questions, please contact me. Here's where you can contact me online. Just type into your browser bit.ly/contactanchorman. That'll put you in direct contact with me, and then we can talk. We can evaluate various options that may be available to you to put your tax problem behind you and get a fresh start. I'm Jim Flaus. Hope you found this information helpful. We'll see you next time.